Okay, before we begin, I'm just going to play a short video for you guys. Hope you guys enjoy this. Oh, mm, oh.
Hi, I am glad you're here. Not too long ago, most of us were still pretty comfortable visiting our government offices and accessing the municipal services that each office has to offer. We would spend our days with our personal documents in hand, waiting for our queue number to be called, then spend time filling up lengthy forms. Finally, we would sign the forms, submit them to the officer behind the counter, and make our payment. But then you'd be thinking, how can I make this easier for me and my users? So you say, okay, I could host my services and forms online so that my users can access it through their smartphones or laptops. But then you realize, in order to shift your services online, especially if they are government services, it is crucial that we have a secure and easily accessible digital ecosystem for both citizens and businesses. With transactions being increasingly digitized, the government is developing a National Digital Identity (NDI) platform. Extending from the SingPass authentication system, NDI provides citizens with a single digital identity to transact with both public and private sectors. What's more, the MyInfo service minimizes the need for users to repeatedly provide and verify their personal information when transacting with government services online. So, now that we know where the government is heading, how should users interact with your services? For starters, I would want my users to log into my system using the SingPass authentication. Users can scan the QR code through the SingPass mobile app installed on their smartphones to log in. Once logged in, users can securely access the relevant services available to them. For my forms, I would want to provide my users the convenience of not having to fill in their basic information, like their first name and last name, their email address, phone number, gender, date of birth, and their nationality. I would want them autofill. Personal information provided through the MyInfo service, based on your user's login, can help you with that. Once users have completed their forms, I may want them to sign their forms using the SingPass Digital Signing service. Digital signing a form or document using SingPass works pretty much the same way as a SingPass login. Users can scan the QR code through the SingPass mobile app installed on their smartphones to digitally sign forms and legal documents conveniently. Finally, I may want my users to make their payments online for the services I am providing. And I would want support for all major payment providers like eNets, Stripe, and PayNow. There are so many things that I would like to do for my users, but where do I start? Don't worry, we are here to help. So come, join us, as we walk through this digital journey together.
Right, I hope you enjoyed this video. So once again, thank you for joining us. I think we have an amazing ecosystem in place to provide citizen-centric services for you and I, as well as members of public, to experience a seamless and also a secure interaction with our government digital services. So a world's first thanks to GovTech and all of you, all the agencies out there who are involved in creating and also to host these services. And we want to be able to leverage on it as much as possible. So when my colleague Kales earlier spoke about Agile, we were talking about how processes can help create quality services quickly. And one of the ways to do this is to avoid repeatedly integrating these government services such as SingPass, MyInfo, and digital signing every time we develop a new service or migrate them to the cloud. So if you can only implement it once and subsequently merely just an onboarding process to as a simple integration, that would be very good, right? So hi, I'm Ming Xiong. I'm a product consultant. I've had 15 years of experience in product development, both in both the public as well as private sectors. And I also, like Kale, recently just joined Toppan Ecquaria. So I'm going to introduce you to the Ecquaria Integration Center, which is EIC. This is one of our products that can simplify your integration and speed up your integration efforts of all your government services, digital services. So, like we say, we have EIC has been deployed in several agencies already as part of the integration efforts such as MOH, MAS, and state courts. What you see here is essentially the EIC products that can help you integrate your government digital services like SingPass, Toppan, MyInfo, GovAD, and Digital Signing. If you have been following us, in these last couple of years, we have beefed up the number of services that we support and to help you in the integration efforts. Namely, just want to highlight for today, we have GovAD as well as Digital Signing. GovAD is essentially a service to help you integrate and connect to your WOG-AD or your whole of government Active Directory. Is to simplify your agency's CAM integration or central account management integration. And your digital signing, essentially what you saw just now in the video. Your digital signing is for you to provide services for your users to be able to perform document or transaction signing remotely. So I will share more on these two services later. Okay. To talk more about EIC, I will start by giving you an overview of the key characteristics of EIC. EIC is developed to be multi-tenant. What it means is that it is deployed as an agency-wide service. And new projects, all you have to do is do a simple onboarding to leverage on the common services. Means implement once, all your services can use. Okay. Next, EIC is also designed to be cloud native and using microservice architecture that can be deployed in containers. This means that your services are scalable and also there's no downtime. And it can be deployed on both your government cloud, your GCC, as well as your on-prem in your data centers. And thirdly, we are always continually trying to meet government standards and practices. So you have the assurance that your services will always be upgraded and comply with these government integrations policies and standards. And your individual applications need not ensure that yourselves. So only one time we do that compliance for you, and you will always be compliant. Then we will do the upgrades necessary upgrades for you. Okay, so why EIC? First, it will definitely reduce your integration effort. It will simplify your integration effort because all you need to use is simple RESTful APIs. EIC will handle all the heavy lifting for you, which includes understanding the architecture, going through all your interface specs, and so that it's easy for you to onboard with us. And you don't have to second guess yourself. Every time you do a custom implementation, you don't want to do the same thing over and over again. Okay. For each application they have, because it is already tested and proven. And SingPass, and we have a lot of implementations already in the agencies, already tested and proven. So you don't run the risk of not meeting your timelines. Okay, so next is a centralized management console. So what you see here is that deploying EIC is a common service to provide a centralized way of managing all your configuration across all your apps. So let's say you have a new app or you want to create you want to do key rotation, you want to do role-based access control. It is centralized configuration. And it provides you a way to centrally monitor all your logs as well, your transaction logs, your audit logs. And when there are any changes to the interface spec, like I mentioned earlier, you don't have to patch 20 or 30 apps that you have. All you need to do is centrally patch the individual EIC product using the EIC console. And of course, the third point is you will have a lower total cost of ownership. Why do I say this? You may have a concern, like if you purchase a product, it will definitely increase your overall cost because of subscription and infrastructure. Definitely a valid concern. But I assure you that it has been proven otherwise, because agencies have engaged us to do a cost analysis both with and without EIC over a 5-year TCO period. And it has shown that the total cost of ownership is actually lower, and there are significant cost of savings if you have, especially for multiple app deployments. So the more apps you onboard with EIC, the total cost of ownership will definitely be lower. So it's a simple onboarding process versus you keep replicating the same effort over and over again using trial and error. Just onboard EIC once all your different applications. So this is our architecture. So for all government system implementations, we all know we need to comply with government architecture standards and requirements, namely the AIAS architecture. I'm sure maybe not everyone, but some of you may have seen this architecture diagram. So it shows you the AIAS architecture with intranet zones, and the IT tier, which is integration tier, and the GUT in the middle. Right. So EIC is actually deployed in the integration tier or IT tier. This is to ensure the integration and compliance with the AIAS architecture, which includes your cross-zone API integration to other systems or GovTech services like your SingPass and CodePass. Okay, let me take this opportunity to just introduce other products with you. Okay, one of our products that we have here is actually the EGP, or the Ecquaria government platform over here. All right, so the EGP is actually a platform to implement or roll out your government services quickly. It provides you all the necessary building blocks like your DB or your cache. And other products includes your monitoring service over here. This allows you to monitor your VMs and your systems, as well as CI/CD. Here, DevSecOps stack, which provides an end-to-end automated pipeline. So from all the way from development to your deployment in your government data centers or your hosting environment. So which means that upon development, when you build, all the way to the end of deployment, we cover the entire pipeline. But today, we are just going to focus on EIC. All right? Okay, coming back to EIC. So before I go into the individual products, EIC products that we have, I just want to give you a quick introduction on the EIC Management Console. So it's a centralized console for administration of all your EIC products. We have a central web administration console for all your EIC products. So all your EIC products like SingPass and CodePass that you onboard with us can be centrally managed and configured. So you have a web-based console. So regardless of what product you have, you can configure it to your web console. And next, you can have a separately deployed in the management console zone for your compliance with government architecture. What it means that when you saw that EIC was deployed inside your integration tier, right? Your management console can be deployed in the management zone, right? It need not be together with your integration tier. This means that we want to comply with IM8 requirements where all your administrative tasks is done and performed inside the management zone. Third, you can also create separate profiles for different projects. So let's say you have many projects, right? You want to create separate profiles, you can do this. So only one deployment, many profiles for your projects. And you can configure them, manage their key rotation, view their log transactions, also for users, for tracking, troubleshooting, and investigative purposes. All these through a single management console. And finally, we adhere to industry standard RBAC, or role-based access control. So on top of your transaction logs, which you can view on the EIC console, this feature is very important because it tracks the actions performed. Like, so for example, you have an admin user. Your admin user comes in and does things like create profile, create tenants, perform key rotation. You want to know who did what, right? So you want to have a layer of accountability and traceability. So this is where it comes in. Okay, so what do you see here is actually an example of the EIC Management Console. This is essentially a SingPass integration. So what you can do is you can configure the OIDC endpoint here. You can configure your client ID. So when you onboard with NDI for your SingPass, they will give you a client ID. So you can actually place it over here. And you can also do your key rotation. For example, here you want to rotate your encryption keys or you want to rotate your signing keys. You can do so all in one console. Here's just an example of a transaction log that you will see on the console. Okay, so you will see things like SingPass login, whether pass or fail, your MyInfo data retrieval, as well as all your EDH data retrieval. You'll be able to see this in your transaction logs. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that that EIC is deployed inside the integration tier to support your cross-zone integration, so that you'll be AIAS architecture compliant. The EIC API gateway allows applications to access APIs hosted in the intranet zone from the internet zone and vice versa. So the first product I'm going to talk about today under the Gateway Services banner is your EIC API Gateway. So like I said just now, the EIC API Gateway is for cross-zone integration between your internet and intranet zones. So besides the architecture, AIS requires that all API integration that takes place across the different zones to pass through the integration tier component with the following requirements. It has to fulfill authentication, authorization, and payload inspection. So what does this mean? Let me explain. So first, when someone makes an API call, it has to fulfill all these three requirements. And how does EIC API Gateway fulfill this requirement is to adopt industry standard authentication method protocols such as OAuth2, JWT, HMAC, and authentication. So upon successful authentication, the EIC console is able to allow you to put configuration rules or authorization rules so that you can restrict the user access to certain APIs. Okay, and just to elaborate a little bit more on the payload inspection, the payload inspection is actually predefined rules. So when someone makes an API, when he sends an API call, these rules can be predefined to check the header, the body, and the parameters of the URL to validate whether the request passing through is valid before it goes downstream to call the API. So other products might require you to write scripts or perform payload inspection. And you may need a developer, but for us, it's very simple. Just go into the EIC console and do some predefined configuration rules. You'll be able to inspect and make sure that whoever makes the API call is a valid and not a malicious one. All right, the second product that I'm going to talk about under the gateway banner is the payment gateway. All right, the payment gateway aggregates all the interfaces with third-party providers such as your eNets, PayNow, PayPal, etc. All right. So individual applications will be able to access all these payment providers via simple RESTful APIs. All right. And out of the box, we already provide connectors for these that you see here, the eNets, PayNow, PayPal, and Stripe. If you have a third-party one and you want to integrate a new one, you can do so as well. All you do is the same thing, integrate the additional providers into the gateway through the EIC Management Console, and you will be able to leverage it agency-wide. Okay, like I said just now, one-time integration, everyone shares the same integration across all your applications. And finally, you'll be able to view all your transaction logs as well as your audit logs as well. Okay, moving on to the next banner of services. So we have gateway services. We also have identity services. So under the identity services, our most popular product, of course, is this one. Why? Because it's SingPass and Compass. All right. So the next two products is essentially to support your SingPass and Compass integration, required by all your internet-facing applications. So both our SAML SP as well as our OIDC RP integrate with SingPass and Compass service providers. And so we will handle all the heavy lifting for you. So you need not implement them. So all you need to do is perform simple configuration to the EIC web-based protocol, web-based interface which you saw just now, and you will be able to do logins with SingPass and Compass. So a little bit of background: the SAML SP that you see here, SAML is actually an older XML-based framework. Okay, so to integrate your SP, CP, SAML service providers that GovTech is phasing out in favor of the new SingPass Compass, which is here. So GovTech will be phasing this out for the new world, this one. So what's the difference? OIDC stands for Open ID Connect. Okay, RP stands for Relying Party. OIDC, Open ID Connect, is the newer standard for SingPass Compass integration. It is a lightweight protocol based on REST and JSON JWT that is built on top of the OAuth 2.0 protocol for both your authentication and your authorization. So our OIDC RP or OIDC Relying Party works pretty much the same way as your SAML SP. And it helps you authenticate, authorize the user against your identity providers, which is your SingPass and Compass. So a bit of background. So let's focus our attention on the newer OIDC RP. So our OIDC RP in the second half of last year, so we had a migration wave of agencies trying to move from the SAML SP to the OIDC RP. And we have been there to help them every step of the way. Then you may ask, why migrate? Why need to migrate? Because the SAML SP also allows you to do your authentication with SingPass and Compass. But OIDC RP over here supports new capabilities such as automated signing. Also supports encryption key rotation using your JWKS, or essentially your JSON web key set. And also supports single sign-on. Both are very good reasons to migrate, but I think the more pertinent reason is that the fact that GovTech will soon be sunsetting this one. So our recommendation, if you have not onboarded with us, to go straight to this. Otherwise, if you have, to migrate to OIDC RP. Okay, so what else? So OIDC RP also supports, it's fully compliant with your NDI Open ID Connect specs. So what it means is that it supports things like your embedded QR code for the user to scan, supports your client assertion, the JWKS endpoint, it supports EC keys and RSA keys as well. And finally, it supports single sign-on, like I mentioned earlier, using a common digital service ID. Log in once, access all your relevant services without having to re-log in again. Alright, the next two products that I have under the Identity Service banner is the MyInfo and the GovEDH. So these two products will integrate your services with MyInfo as well as GovEDH. Oops. With GovEDH. EDH stands for Enterprise Data Hub. So what you will be able to do is to enable auto form filling. You'll be able to fill your forms with government verified data. So this means that when a user comes in, use your service, tries to fill a form, your form is auto-filled already. And not only auto-filled, it's auto-filled with government verified data. It means you have the assurance, right, that your that your data comes from a reliable and verifiable source. The difference between these two is that MyInfo serves personal info, whereas your GovEDH you'll be able to retrieve corporate info. Okay, so the focus for today. Today I'm going to talk more about two services that we have beefed up part of our suite of identity services. One of them is the EIC GovAD. EIC GovAD is to help your users to authenticate with your WOG-AD or your whole of government AD. Alright, so the user accounts are all centrally managed by your WOG-AD. A bit of background. So starting from 2022, agencies are recommended by GovTech to progressively implement authentication against your WOG-AD as a prerequisite for your CAM integration. If you know your CAM integration, your Central Account Management integration, is to align with GovTech's direction to move away from agency-managed user accounts. So you don't want to manage your user accounts by your application level or your agency level, but at the WOG-AD level. So CAM integration is essentially to allow the central CAM system to notify you of any changes in the user account. Let's say, for example, a user leaves the service, an officer leaves the service, and you'll be notified through APIs. So your agency will need to provide a set of APIs so that the central CAM system can notify you. But before you can integrate CAM, you're encouraged to integrate with WOG-AD because it's a simpler way to integrate. So we support both WOG-ADFS as well as your Azure AD. Next, it also supports your single sign-on. And just to elaborate a little bit more, so GovTech has defined 3 different modes of authentication. Agencies are encouraged to migrate to mode 1. I will tell you more about what mode 1 is later. So let's go through the 3 different modes of authentication so you can understand better and what are required of you in each mode so you can make a better decision. So this is the first mode of authentication whereby the user accounts are managed locally by your application system. So here. So authentication, authorization all done within the application system. And when there is a staff movement data, let's say an officer leaves the service, you'll be notified through the CAM system, through APIs, and you are required to do 2 steps. One is to remove the account, and one to remove the access rights. So if you have many applications, right, you can do this many times. Alright, so let's move to mode 2. Mode 2 is whereby your user accounts are managed by your agency AD. So your authentication will be authenticating against the user accounts, against the agency AD. Okay, so through your CAM integration, like for example, when an officer leaves the service, you'll be notified, and what you only need to do for your application is to remove the access rights. Sounds good, right? But there is one more step that your agency needs to do, which is to remove the account. So your agency needs to be responsible to remove the account from his agency AD. And finally, mode 1. For mode 1, user accounts are managed by your WOG-AD. Authentication will be against your WOG-AD. So your agency do not need to manage the user account. So removal of user accounts when the officer leaves the service is done by the WOG-AD. So all the user accounts are already managed for you. All you need to do is to authenticate with the WOG-AD. But of course, this step remains. You still need to remove the access right for your application. So how does EIC GovAD help you? So we want to make this even easier for you. We want to help you in your authentication. So all you need to do is call simple RESTful APIs and you will be able to do your authentication with the WOG-AD. Okay, and we do that through either your WOG-ADFS or your Azure AD. This one is for intranet applications. This one is for internet or intranet applications. Okay, why EIC GovAD is a tailored product. So you don't have to try again. You don't have to try an error. When you onboard with us, You don't have to use things like general purpose products or use open source software. We have done the testing for you, and we have done the integration, and we have deployed in production as well. So we have already done it for you. And it's also definitely will simplify your WOG AD onboarding. So it is deployed in production. It's proven to work. This keeps things simple for your application and your integration because it's already incorporated into the product. So will definitely help you meet your timeline for your CAM integration. All right. The last product I'm going to talk about under the identity service banner is the digital signing. Before we, so as part of NDI's Smart Nation project, the government has introduced this thing called the Sign with SingPass. Okay, later we'll watch a video. It is essentially to allow your users to be able to sign documents, transactions, and legal documents, agreements using your SingPass mobile app. So anyone with the SingPass mobile app will have the ability to perform this transaction or document signing remotely. So this EIC product will help you integrate your Sign with SingPass into your application. So let us watch a video of GovTech's Sign with SingPass video of a typical user journey. Sure. GovTech's video is quite sweet one. Okay, so we want to integrate with EIC Digital Signing. So EIC Digital Signing will help you integrate Sign with SingPass into your applications. All right, and what we want to do, we want to do document or transaction signing easily, digitally signed using your SingPass mobile app. Once you sign your document or transaction, it will be regarded as a secure electronic signature under the Electronic Transaction Act or your ETA. But this is, of course, pending the NCA accreditation. NCA stands for your National Certification Authority. So, a bit of background about the ETA or the Electronic Transaction Act. So, the ETA is passed in 1998. So, the Electronic Transaction Act provides a legal framework that governs all your digital services such as e-commerce, electronic records, electronic contracts, and signatures. So in Singapore, the enforceability and also of electronic signatures governed by Chapter 88 of the ETA, which means that it draws the distinction, and this chapter draws the distinction between three types of signatures. First is your electronic signature. So an electronic signature is essentially an electronic record of a signed document. So you can send a document in PDF and you can piak your image of your signature and piak down there. You call that sign. And you also can create a signature using signing with a trackpad. You know the thing that you sign, keep trying and trying and trying, but still doesn't look like your signature thing. And also you can write a name on the soft copy of it. I think these are considered as electronic signatures, but I think we all know that these signatures are susceptible to fraud, dispute, as well as tampering. So the ETA also defines another type of signature called a secure electronic signature. And a secure electronic signature is essentially a signature that can be verified securely. You can identify of the person signing it, get who signed this document. John Doe signed this document. Next, it has to be created by the person itself. So one way to create this signature is to use your Sign with SingPass. Okay, but of course there are many ways to create secure electronic signatures. The Sign with SingPass is one way, and he has to create it himself. He signed it himself. And next, it has to be linked to an untampered electronic record. So at the end of the day, whatever he signed, at the end of the day, is still the same document and it has not changed. Okay, no one has tampered with the document. The third type of signature that ETA defines is the digital signature. Essentially, the digital signature is a secure electronic signature created by applying an asymmetric cryptography algorithm on a one-way hash function of an electronic record. Wow, what is that? Wow, mouthful, right? So, it's a specific type of secure electronic signature created by your sign with SingPass. Okay, so sign with SingPass uses a signing certificate issued by your NCA or your National Certificate Authority, and is currently pending accreditation now. So your digital signatures, which is made using your sign with SingPass, will be regarded as a secure electronic signature following the NCA accreditation. All right. So, with a digital signature, this is what you will achieve for your business transaction. So the digital signature is cryptographically linked to the user and signer, cryptographically linked to the signer and the electronic record. So it provides you the assurance that the signature is authentic, it has integrity, and it cannot be tampered with. So these three properties. So you can, the person who signed this document, Mr. John Doe signed this document, he cannot deny that he signed the document. And finally, the signed record has not been tampered with. So, digital signatures can be applied to both documents and transactions. For today, we will just cover on transaction signing because both are quite similar. Okay, so for transaction signing, this is what typically goes on when a user transacts with your government service. A user will go into your website, he will start filling up a form, and the form upon submission will be stored in your database in some form of data, could be JSON, could be XML. So this is typically how your transaction will be handled. So to enable digital signing, your application needs to initiate this signing process. So your application needs to create a hash of your data and pass it to your NDI digital signing service. Okay, this is first step. Next step, your application needs to show a QR code so that your user can go and scan it, right? Okay, so your the SingPass mobile app that this user has a certificate issued by the NCA. Okay, so it's unique to the user. So whenever you sign, when the user signs with SingPass, he cannot say he didn't sign it because no, his name is there. And next part of the signing process, your NDI DSS will return you the digital signature as well as the cert. And you'll be storing this with your data together with your database. So where does EIC Gov AD come in? So this is where we come in. EIC Digital Signing come in. This is where we come in. We will do the heavy lifting and remove the heavy lifting work from you. Okay, so for transaction signing, so what you see here is actually NDI's DSS specification. So there are quite a lot of things that you have to understand and you have to go through in order to implement your digital signing. So you want to do it for yourself, right? Quite xiong. So let us do it for you. Okay, so what you see here, the flow chart. So many things do you need to do. So we remove all these things for you. Done for you already. All you need to do is onboard with us. Okay? And now, so let's say a user comes to you and he disputes, no, I didn't sign this document. This is not what I signed. So you need to do a verification process. Very simple. From your database, all you need to do is extract the data that was stored initially when the user first filled the form and extract the signature as well as the certificate tied to the user. After that, you do the relevant generation of hash again, and from here generate the hash If they're both equal, he cannot deny that he signed it. You know who signed it. Okay, the person cannot deny he signed it, and also the integrity, which means the document has not been tampered with. Okay, just want to cover this Toppan's our commitment as a product as a service. So on top of delivering products, we provide a service to help you deliver a successful implementation, and we want to help you. So we offer services like pre-deployment, we offer consultation, also to help you in your architecture as well as your sizing. Provide you with installation as well as onboarding services. So for example, in your SingPass CopPass integration, right, the user needs to provide information to NDI. You need to fill up some forms. You do not know what the processes are. We will handhold you all the way because we have done many projects already, and we have helped many agencies integrate SingPass CopPass into their systems. So we'll handhold you all the way. And other than that, we have our service managers attached to you. So whenever we have a patch or release, we will work with your project managers to update the relevant services in your EIC deployment. And also, we also seek clearance for our members. So we go down personally to your environment to do this onboarding and configuration and maintenance for you. So we don't sell you the product. We also help you deliver your product. Okay. That's all I have. Any questions for me?
All right, thank you, Ming Xiong. Now we have come to the Q&A session for this segment of the seminar. Again, you can use the pigeonhole, send your questions, or if you have any questions, don't need to be shy anyway, we're a small group. You can also raise up your hand, let us know. I see that there's already quite a number of questions.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so we are ready to answer the barrage of questions. Okay.
So how does EIC compare to alternative solutions? Are there market comparables for procurement purposes? Okay, so I think one of the things that I mentioned just now, we also provide product as a service. So we not just sell you the product and leave you to go and maintain it yourself. We will come down personally. We will, in fact, upon we do regular releases and updates. So whenever there is a release or an update, we will inform you. So our service managers will inform you, and we will come down personally to do the configuration and update for you. So that's the difference between market.
Maybe to add on to that, I believe that the strength of our EIC is really in the number of systems that we can really integrate to. You can see already just now, just a big long list. If you are talking about comparable products, so there are some comparable products out there that maybe you can integrate with maybe some of the systems, but maybe not all. So if you are looking at implementing this, then you may need to put together maybe a few if you want to integrate to all of that the systems. But if you work with us, let's say, then you can cover all in one single product. Okay, let's move on to the next one. How is the patching and upgrades being notified?
Yeah. So we have a service manager attached to you. We will inform you through your project managers. So it depends on which project you are doing. So upon any release, and we do regular releases, and every time when there's a release, we inform your project managers accordingly.
Okay, next one. For future SingPass, CopPass changes, will EIC support include by default as part of your standard upgrades, or there will be change requests raised with separate costs?
Okay, so SingPass, CopPass, there are two. So you got your SAML SP as well as your OIDC RP, right? So if you are doing, for example, an upgrade from SAML SP to your OID CRP, these are, we will regard it as a separate product, as a new deployment. Okay, but if you are talking about OID CRP and maybe there's a change in specs, your interface specs by NDI has changed, you want to implement a new feature, like for example your JWKS implementation, then it will be considered upgrade lah, not a new product release for you.
Okay, the question on what standard is EIC built on?
Which one?
No. Okay, so I'm not. Don't quite understand the question in the sense that because we integrate with different systems, so the different standards we'll use. Right, the different integration in the different interfaces were different standards. So, like SingPass we use OIDC. So it will be different standard for different interfaces. So I'm not sure whether I answered that question, or is it something else that
which standard?
The person is asking?
Well, EIC is designed to be built on cloud native as well as on, you can deploy in your containers. So you can actually deploy on-prem on your data center as well as on cloud. Yeah. Yeah, actually I saw this question. Is the product pricing based on transaction count or by user count? Okay, so we have various pricing models. It depends. We have models that are based on, depends on your deployment, how many VMs you have, depends on your sizing, and also the number of services that you want to deploy. You got SingPass, you got Toppan, the number of services, or like you have MyInfo or your EDA. It also depends on the number of services you onboard with EIC. So yeah.
Can you elaborate more on the EIC payment gateway? How is it compared to other payment services?
It's in the simplicity lah. So first, you only need to use simple RESTful APIs to be able to connect to your payment providers. We also have transaction logs for all the payment transactions that you make, and you also if you have a third-party payment provider that we do not support out of the box, you can also integrate into it.
Just to be clear, we are not a payment service provider.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't clear the payment for you, but we can integrate with any of the third-party payment service provider that you so choose. Okay. Any SLA for this product as a service model?
SLA.
Yeah. Okay. So the different levels of SLA that we can offer. So of course, the better the SLA, the more costly it is. So it's really up to you. You can actually choose the different various levels of SLA that meets your business requirements. So is it OPEX or CapEx? So it's more like I think more OPEX because it's more based on subscription model that you pay. So it's not so much. So I think the answer to the question is more OPEX than CapEx. Okay, I think there's some more questions. Okay, my system is on mode 2 using one-way forest trust with WOGAD. Do I still need to migrate to ADFS or Azure AD for?
Okay, I'll try to answer this one. So you have a mode 2 authentication system with a one-way forest trust to your WOGAD. Essentially, you are already authenticating with the WOGAD, right? You are actually ready for CAM integration now. But I will tell you why we should use EIC GovAD, because The one-way forest trust is Microsoft native, is a legacy product that it may be phased out soon. So you might want to use EIC Gov AD and authenticate with your WOG AD using your WOG ADFS or Azure AD, because they are newer protocols and they're web-based. So you directly talk to your WOG AD using your user tokens as well as your credentials. So I suggest that it is better for you to upgrade and connect to WOG AD using your ADFS or Azure AD.
Okay, I think in the interest of time, we need to move on. Maybe we will just pick one last question. Can EIC provide audit reports required should the need arise?
Yes, so we have audit trails. So if admin user goes into a EIC console and does your respective key rotation or configuration, we will know who did what, and you can see the audit trails accordingly.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the questions, and thank you, Ming Xiong, once again for sharing the product EIC.